Haven't Seen It with Tim Sestito and Tommy Tevenet. Hello, everybody. Welcome on in. Thank you all so much for listening today. This is a podcast where one of us is watching a movie for the very first time. And today that is Tommy. But Tommy,
Mm.
we have to make sure that you watched the right Godzilla because there's a lot of movies named Godzilla. You
At this
didn't watch
point,
the 2014 movie named Godzilla
no. But I have seen that.
or the 1998 Roland Emmerich disaster called Godzilla,
No, but I have seen that one too, and that one is a fun movie to watch when hungover. I'll say that much about it.
or the 1956 American remake called Godzilla King of the Monsters, where they just kind of changed the entire movie and took
Yeah,
away its messaging.
I
Is
kind of
that the
want
one
to
you
deep dive.
watched?
No, that's not the one I watched. That was on the Criterion Collection that I did rent from Best Video of Godzilla. They had both editions, but I watched the 1954 version. Can't believe I never watched this movie before. It was a real treat.
Yeah, it's we'll dive more into the movie. It's definitely I would say for me it's surprising how well it holds up.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. You'd expect like everything. I mean, you know that like, the original Godzilla is just a guy in a suit. And like I've seen some of the 70s ones before where it's just like, oh, this is just some hokey, lame shit. Just like essentially just like a wrestling match. But somehow this held up in terms of special effects, and I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll dive into the history of Godzilla because I had an interesting thought when I was watching this movie about like the Japanese culture in the West,
Hmm.
and how Godzilla is kind of like the first Japanese like cultural creation to like become a household name in the United States. Kind of like there's so like if you ask any random person on the street, they probably like one thing made in Japan, whether it's a video game, a movie, a TV show, an
Hmm.
anime, whatever. Like they probably like something made in Japan. And but we'll dive deeper into that thought
Yeah, I
there.
mean, they call Godzilla Japan's first movie star.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell why in this one. Tommy, before we go deeper into Godzilla, what did you watch this week? What's going on, man?
All right, so I want to talk briefly about I've been watching a bunch of John McTiernan films recently, thanks to the Blank Check podcast, and I just finally rewatched Die Hard with a Vengeance. Only the second time I've ever seen that movie, and goddamn, that movie fucks. I mean, yeah, the fact that John McTiernan he came back for the third movie in this franchise, he directed the original Die Hard, and he didn't direct Die Hard 2, which I remember being kind of mediocre. And he comes back and he brings just like classic New York City cop action movie. Him and Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson just have great chemistry right here. And there's one chase sequence that John McTiernan just shows like this is why one of the greatest action directors of the '90s, where it's just a chase sequence where John McClane goes like 60 blocks in about like 10 minutes just in the car going through Central Park and stuff like that. I know that Tim, you're one that like we were talking last week during Scarface how much you hated the New York City geography in that movie. Die Hard 3, I think, is just the exact opposite, where they knew exactly where they were in
Really?
New York City. It was just like it all made sense like geography wise. Like, okay, these are the exact blocks that John McClane go to. It was a movie that like I said, this was only my second time watching, but it really holds up. I think it's a fun sequel. I think it's slightly worse than the first Die Hard, but that's
You can't capture that lightning in a bottle again. Like there's just a magic to that movie, and then like Alan Rickman's performance is just like incredible.
yeah. But I mean, like Jeremy Irons as spoiler, but Hans Gruber's brother is great as the villain in this movie. And like I said earlier, Samuel Jackson just this is really where he broke out after Pulp Fiction, where it's just like, okay, Samuel Jackson's gonna stay in our lives for the rest of our lives, movie
Yeah, he's
career.
going to be
So
in movies for he's going to be in your face till the end of time. I always think Samuel L. Jackson's career is funny because he's in so much stuff. Like
yeah.
that man doesn't turn down a paycheck, you know? Like, because it took him a while to break out. Like he was in his like 40s when he like finally broke out as a star.
Mhm.
Um, and like I don't know, like if you go through his filmography, it's like very clear if you hit the pay threshold for Samuel L. Jackson, he will be in your movie without a question.
Well, yeah, but at the same point though, I think Samuel Jackson's like one of the top three actors in terms of like world box office gross because he's been in Jurassic Park, Star Wars, fucking the MCU, this Die Hard sequel. I mean, which the Die Hard sequel was I think the top grossing movie of 94 or 95 when it came out. So it's just like this guy, he just is constantly in fucking iconic
He's
movies.
in he has a lot of iconic performances and he's in a lot of iconic movies. But if we pull up his IMDb page here, which I'm just going to do very quickly here, we can see that he has a lot of roles.
Yeah.
Like he's an actor in 215 film, or he has 215 appearance credits as an actor.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot, you know. But hey, the man likes to work. He mm, likes making that money. He was apparently in The Rise of Skywalker as a voice. It's probably best if we just don't remember anything about that movie.
Yeah.
Probably for the best.
But overall, I mean, I recommend watching Die Hard with a Vengeance. I think it's just a great sequel. And I miss action movies like that are filmed on location in New York City.
Yeah.
Um, because like, you see movies now, like, as much as we like Spider-Man No Way Home, looking back on that, like a couple years later, you realize how much of that movie is filmed on green screens in New York to like show New York City, which is just wild.
Yeah, and I think that movie it got people back in the theaters and it
Mm,
created that feeling that people had missed for 2 years. But then, like you see, like the two big blockbusters that came out this past year and then Top Gun the year before, and it's like completely different caliber of movie
yeah.
versus
Member Berries, the movie,
yeah,
essentially.
Member Berries the movie. Um, so I have two movies and I think they're similar. I recently watched Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Superbad.
Two great movies.
Two great movies. I was on a trip with friends. Some might call it a bachelor party, and you needed movies for the group. And those two landed very
Yeah.
well. So they're just great comedies, and it's almost depressing that we haven't gotten like that many. Like it feels like at the turn of the 2010s, Hollywood stopped funding comedy movies.
Yeah, it's the like terrible decline of like the physical media market. That once Netflix, Amazon, all these different streamers came up, people didn't really buy DVDs anymore. Whereas like they could back in the day. I mean, I have a copy of Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Superbad in my like DVD collection. I'm sure a lot of people back in the day bought those DVDs. But nowadays, a movie like Blockers or like what was that movie Ricky Stania that just came out or something
Yeah,
like that? Those
apparently
these
it's good. I want to check it out. Ricky
but yeah,
Stanicky.
these movies are now just getting dumped straight to streaming. There's no
When they're
like
clearly movies
theatrical.
that at least need some kind of theatrical presence. Because like I miss
Yeah,
being in a theater and laughing with an audience.
yeah. That movie, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I think is probably one of my favorite fucking movie experiences ever because I was in eighth grade when that movie came out. My dad, I told him for weeks, like, "Hey, we gotta go see Forgetting Sarah Marshall." When we it for a sleepover, the mom came out to the car, said, "Please don't take your kids to go see the kids to go see Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I heard it's a really bad movie." And my dad's like, "Ah, we're gonna go see Drillbit Taylor." And then immediately once we drove away, my dad's like, "All right, guys, who's ready to go see Forgetting Sarah Marshall?" We're all like, "Fuck yeah, dad!"
Hell
So
yeah.
we all go there. The mom found out the next day, hated my dad for the rest of that time. Where it's just like, I can't believe you took those kids to go see Forgetting Sarah Marshall. But
And that movie is like pretty mild. And I would say
yeah.
like it does have the Judd Apatow thing in his
Mm,
movies where like the last 25 minutes aren't super funny.
mm.
Um Sounds super bad, but like a lot of his movies they get very emotional and get down to the core, which is cool. It's like its own unique way of communicating. I was actually
Mm,
recently watching the Gary Shandling documentary on HBO.
mm.
I didn't realize Judd Apatow was like mentored by Gary Shandling and basically like wrote to Gary when he was like 18 years old.
Yeah.
And Gary responded to it and basically helped get his start in Hollywood, which is like really
J-
crazy. And then learning more about Gary Shandling and like his kind of like meditation in comedy and like persistence in being true to himself feel like it does come out that way in Judd
Mm.
Apatow films. Like they're
Yeah.
very true to him, and they're all about people and relationships, and they're all like they can reach a broad market, but they all have funny moments, and then they
Mm.
all have very sincere moments where if you look back on like comedies from like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, like it's just joke, 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 joke. There's like no stakes at all. It's just jokes, which
Yeah.
is good. It's just a different way of delivering comedy.
I think that Judd Apatow, he took the torch from James L. Brooks, like, movies like Broadcast News. They're just really character focused, like dramedies essentially. And, Knocked Up. I mean, I think those movies for us, I mean, Superbad's the most iconic like comedy for our generation, I think. So
Yeah, it's the greatest comedy of the 21st century, and I'd argue a
yeah.
top three. Like, granted, we were what 13, 14 when that movie came out.
Yeah.
You can relate to it there, but I just think like even like I can go back and watch stuff that I liked when I was younger and be like, oh, this isn't as good, but I never feel that way about Superbad, even though I can
Mm.
quote half the movie. Like it's just so funny, man. Like it still just makes you laugh. But yeah, those were the movies that I saw recently, and on top of that was Godzilla.
He's headed toward the Brooklyn Bridge.
New York City's biggest problem just got
He's trending.
bigger.
If they get out, they'll multiply.
Party's over.
They're going to be all over the city if we don't stop them.
What do we do? Running would be a good idea. Godzilla, rated PG-13.
Wrong floor.
Now playing at theaters everywhere.
So I just want to say because I searched far and wide. I gave a very extensive search for anything like a TCM advertisement for the original Godzilla that they were going to air it. I could find like a classic movie trailer that's like 3 minutes long. I'm not going to play that. It felt so wrong to play Godzilla 1998 TV spot. Like when we'll get into the themes of this movie but this movie is it's a very sincere movie. It definitely comes from a place of like Japan nearly 10 years after the Second World War ended. And the hydrogen bomb has been developed and deployed. The atomic bomb, obviously, being Godzilla being a metaphor for the atomic bomb, right? Like
Mm.
these are all, connections to it. And then you just put like this one where it's like Godzilla's having babies, and you're just like, oh my God, who greenlit? Like it's just disrespectful. And
It's
I
yeah.
understand Godzilla does not have the greatest track record of keeping it sincere.
Mm.
They definitely get schlocky. Like I think right after this one, it starts to just dwell down the path of just men in rubber suits like smacking each other and
Yeah.
as different monsters. But like at least those were the original creators of the Godzilla who kind of like let it go down that path. This
Mm.
one was like the first like true American adaptation of Godzilla. And I can't even I remember like the promotion for it and like I was five, like we couldn't go see it, obviously. I think it was rated R.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like that sounds like the worst movie ever made, man.
Like I said earlier at the top of the episode, rewatched that movie about like a year ago or so with my friend. We were both a little hungover and tired, and it was perfect for that kind of environment for us, where the movie is just like Roland Emmerich. Like for some reason, Roger Ebert is the mayor of New York City, and not actually Roger Ebert, but the actor specifically that's supposed to look like Ebert, and his deputy mayor is Siskel, that's supposed to look like
He
fucking
was trying
Siskel.
to grease up Siskel and Ebert there,
Yeah,
get at least like a 2-star review.
Roger Ebert's like, yeah, it was cute, but you should have had Godzilla kill my character. Like, what the fuck are you doing? But it was a trash movie, trash 90s movie. I mean, it had some moments that was fucking funny, and I think it had a good teaser trailer back in the day. Not the one that you just played, but overall, it's just junk. I mean, like the fact that America from the beginning has just taken Godzilla. We were talking earlier. They originally cut this movie in America, and this is the version that people saw for years. Um, the original 1954 Godzilla into Godzilla King of the Monsters. They recut it. They cut out 40 minutes of pretty much any political subtext, any mention of Nagasaki or Hiroshima, and they inserted Raymond Burr, the guy from Rear Window, who's
Yeah.
the main guy in that. they
Well, he's
restarted
not the
him.
main guy, and
Well, he was one of the main characters.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just making sure you're aware of the difference between Raymond Burr
I
and
I
Jimmy
remember.
Stewart and Jimmy Stewart. Okay, I'm just making sure because you're
I
just like the
remember we
main guy,
covered
and
that
I'm like, well,
movie.
that's not the main guy.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Raymond Burr, they pretty much like did inserted him into shots where it's just like he's a reporter and everyone's like, oh, his character's name was Steve Martin. Like, oh, Steve Martin, thank you so much for being here. This is so great. And they just make it an American focused movie. Pretty much everyone said at the time they took out any nuance of Godzilla and made it just another schlocky 1950s Godzilla movie.
B movie, yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is this would fall under the kaiju film, which is the Japanese term for monster depictions. Um,
And this is what kicked it off. There wasn't really a monster movie in Japan before this. This is what
yeah,
established that genre.
this is this genre establishment. This is influential film because I feel like almost everybody in the world will probably know the name Godzilla, and I
Yeah.
would probably argue that most people haven't seen a Godzilla movie,
Mhm.
or maybe they've seen one.
Mhm.
But it's an interesting franchise to kind of like dive into and like learn a little bit about the history of it. But then when you come into the original one, yeah, and then I think a lot of people's interpretations are it's a 1954 Japanese film. Like, how good could it be?
Mhm.
I would say it starts off kind of slow, and it's intentional in that way.
Mhm.
Where the buildup is just showing the impact of Godzilla, but it doesn't there's no like hook onto it from like the character side that we get into, like that gets established like 20 starts getting established like 20 minutes into it or so.
Mhm.
um between between Amiko and Serizawa and Ogata, right? And I
Yeah.
were
I I think that overall, and I mean, this is a common complaint people have with the Godzilla franchise that like, oh, like who cares about the human characters? I think this movie does a better job than some of the later day Godzilla movies.
oh
But
yeah.
overall, I think the messages of this movie is what carry this over than the actual human performances. Even though I did really enjoy this movie.
It's not the performances, but it's the human focus of the like of
Mm,
those three. Like I would say Godzilla minus one did the human element like much better than
mm,
this one does in terms of like the emotional core.
yeah.
But getting that message of, you know, Godzilla is terrorizing Japan. That's like the first hour and 20 minutes. And we only see Dr. Sarazawa. He's like in the movie like two times before that. Then
Yeah.
we cut to a flashback with Amiko and Sarazawa, and we learn about the oxygen destroyer. And that's like the nuanced debate of this entire movie is between, the oxygen destroyer will basically evaporate underwater and kill anything that breathes. It just evaporates the oxygen and just brings you down to your bones. They want
Mm,
to use it against Godzilla because there's nothing that can be done to stop him. Um, and I think like that scene is like the scene that the glue of this movie. Like that
mm,
that scene is so powerful and so well acted. Um, I think that like everything before leads up into that to like show you the impact of like why we would need to use such a tool because it's the same debate of the atomic bomb on the Japanese.
mm.
Like
Yeah, and the movie, like the way it just parallels everything. Came at a time where, to bring it in the historical context, Japan, right after the war, right after the two bombs were dropped in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, were occupied by America for until like 1952. And within that time, any mention of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was very heavily censored. It would only be like the sanitized versions of it and stuff like that, so people didn't really know exactly what happened. And eventually, after 1952, some more films started coming out in the Japanese culture that would show people the radiation sickness, what actually happened in Hiroshima. And this was a direct response to everything. When you see those scenes in Tokyo, especially of Godzilla just trampling through the buildings and stuff like that, I felt it kind of felt extremely haunting, especially like how they focused on like the human characters of like the mom ushering in her kids and hugging
Yeah,
them
and
and
it's
saying,
just it's you're gonna be
yeah,
with dad soon. Yeah, like and it's just like a one-off character, like
mhm,
and it's a almost a trope in those movies where you'll like have that one off character that like usually they're getting saved by a hero or something like that.
yeah,
But just like of the haunting reality of just like it's okay, we're gonna be with daddy soon. Like
yeah.
while she's crying
It,
and like hugging her kids. Like it brings that human element. Like and maybe that's more what I mean
mhm.
versus like the relationship between the characters. It's like they humanize the disaster.
Well, yeah,
And
it's like the problem with some of the Godzilla movies, like the more modern ones, especially the American ones, is that you see all this death and destruction, and like it doesn't matter. There's no reaction to it. It's just like Godzilla and like King Kong or whatever, being like,
the
"Fuck yeah, bro!" Like we just took out Mecha Godzilla or
yeah, I mean
whatever.
we're 20 minutes into recording and a new Godzilla movie just came out and I
Yeah.
feel like this movie has had zero impact because it like came out and nobody cared.
Well, to be fair, it did actually have like the great, I think the greatest opening so far of 2024. It made 200 million at the opening
Really?
box up, yeah, over the weekend. So people have been seeing it, but I think that that's kind of the franchise. I mean, we saw Godzilla versus Kong, the original one, or the one from 2 years ago, 3 years
Yeah,
ago,
and we were like
and
hyped for it, and then it was like so disappointing. We were like, "Oh, this sucks."
well, it gave exactly what I wanted, which was I got to see a giant monkey or giant gorilla punch a giant fucking lizard, but it
It was
wasn't a nuance.
it,
Yeah, it
well,
wasn't a nuanced film, and it immediately just was like slop, and immediately just like I couldn't tell you the majority of things that happened in that movie. I saw that
no,
movie twice at that time.
yeah, it was Giant Monkey Punch. It was a round of Super Smash Brothers. That's pretty much what it was. King K. Rool
Yeah,
versus Donkey Kong. Like
yeah.
that's what the movie was. But yeah, I think the other side of like what would make this movie hold up together is the visual effects
Mm.
of it. How did you feel like the reveal of Godzilla, like his head just poking over the hill? Like, how did that land for you in that moment?
That alone, I mean, I actually watched the first 30 minutes of this movie last night, and I ended up restarting it today to watch the whole movie. And both times that scene happened, I was like, holy shit. Because I think the one part of this movie that really impressed me was just the sound design itself of
Yes,
just the loud bass, the loud, like just like thundering roar. I mean, we expect this kind of from a Godzilla movie. I didn't expect to see that from a movie from the 1950s.
you didn't
And
expect to see it in the original Godzilla.
mm,
And it's like the sound of his foot like
yeah,
crunching, like the dun dun dun, like the
and
sound of like his roar,
yeah,
like that iconic sound that you would associate that
yeah,
like that's here.
mm,
And it's the sound that goes with the destruction with a lot of great miniature work, may I say. Like they clearly built a lot of miniature sets that they'd used to destroy it when they were going through
mm,
Tokyo and the other areas that they were destroying there. There were some wonky edits. There was one of a guy like driving and he's like, ah, and it spins like the car, and you can
yeah,
very clearly tell that it's a miniature car, but like I don't know, it's 1954. What else are you gonna do to like flip a car, right? Like
yeah.
that's just
And
how you were gonna do it.
yeah, exactly. And like, there's always like the like backgrounds that sometimes look like shit. But one thing that actually really impressed me, I didn't realize this until after the fact, on the Criterion, they had a side by side of all the matte paintings of this movie. How like, when you're in the jungle or like on that island at the beginning, majority of that was just matte paintings and background.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have told. I think that the black and white cinematography here really helps out the special effects, kind of really helps hide out like the cheesiness and stuff like that. I think that the
Well,
Godzilla head himself, when he's going over the mountain, just holds up and just is scary. I think the only thing that I think isn't great about the costume is the eyes. But other than the
yeah,
eyes,
the eyes are a little
yeah,
wonky, but you don't see too much of the eyes, so it's
mhm,
fine.
yeah,
Um, like I don't think the effects are corny. I think the effects are from 1954 and they're
yeah,
exactly what you would imagine effects from 1954 to be like. So if this movie was in color, like it would look horrible because like mostly uses like I feel like I would associate Godzilla with fire breath, and like especially if you're gonna do like an atomic parallel, you would do fire, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a parallel. Well, they used frost because it looked better. Like
Mm.
it looked better coming out of his mouth, and like you could see that there was like opulence transition between the two frames that they like spliced together when it's like coming out. Like you can kind of see those little things in the film print. Um, but like I try to sometimes, especially in a movie like this,
Mm.
put myself in the mindset of somebody in 1954 watching this, where my only context is probably like King Kong, like the original.
Yeah.
Like,
And that I don't think it holds up as much. I mean, I haven't seen that all the way through, but the claymation in that kind of
yeah,
gives off a certain vibe. But yeah, think about it, especially in Japan. I mean, people were frightened because like, the Tokyo thing, the attack gave off like moments of PTSD, I feel like, back then. Because this is only what, 10 years after Hiroshima
not
and
even,
yeah.
not even. And they mention, Nagasaki there like a couple times in this throughout this movie.
Mm.
Um, I think I think it, its impact is really in the, I think the creation of like the suitmation special effects,
Mm.
where I've seen a couple other, I think I saw Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and I watched one
Same.
other one, where they're really just like 60s wacky movies. Um,
The Godzilla character, I think, kind of reminds me in a way of Batman, where Batman has like the goofy Adam West campy versions and like the goofy fucking George Clooney versions and stuff like that. And then he has the ultra serious Christian Bale stuff like that. So like this is more so of like the original, and to put it in the context of Batman, I guess this original is like the dark, just like very brooding version. Whereas when we have Godzilla versus Kong, that's like essentially Adam West. Where it just can't be.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a stretch, but I like the metaphor.
Yeah.
There, if you've never seen a Godzilla film, that's a good way to relate it, because well, the interesting thing with the Godzilla franchise,
Mm.
it's like Godzilla, at least to my knowledge, because there's like 100 Godzilla movies. It's Godzilla, then Shin Godzilla in
Yeah.
2016, I think, came out. It's a Japanese one, and then
Yeah.
Godzilla minus one are like the ones that are like actually serious, and then the rest of them are just kind of like campy monster movies.
Yeah, I think that there's some ones that like try to go back a little bit to a more serious tone. One thing that shocked me when looking up stuff about this movie is the guy who played Godzilla in this movie, the guy in the suit. I'm gonna butcher his name, just Haru Nagajima. He played Godzilla for the first 12 Godzilla movies. I just assumed that every time was just another guy in a suit. Like they just didn't give a shit. But shockingly, he played Godzilla all the way up to Godzilla versus Gigan, which was 1972. So I think that him himself, I mean, he has the iconic movement down. I mean, when you see Godzilla minus one, they're directly aping this movie in terms of the
Yeah,
movement
that
and
was a
everything.
big thing I saw there from like Godzilla minus one goes more into the and like Godzilla minus one is also set in this same time period
Yeah.
relative to all the other ones, which are like more at the time that it was released.
Mm.
Um but you can really feel the influence of that. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the score of this movie
Mhm.
by Akira Ifukube. Like just that classic score,
Mm.
that orchestral, like just gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. It's like a perfect somber. Um, I'm actually going to pull it up right now because I think that's a better impact than me trying to explain how the Godzilla
Yeah.
theme, the original Godzilla theme sounds. Um, I just want the
It's
original.
something that like they always at least in Japanese films they go back to that score over and over again, and whenever it pops up it's just always just like a hit of like goosebumps, especially in Godzilla minus one where it's just going through destruction, you just hear that sound.
This is what happens when you pull it up live here. and like it has such like a somber buildup, and it just like it's in that minor key, and I love that sound there, and
Mhm.
it's just like it's where it originates. It's all this iconic parts of Godzilla that's featured in pretty much every film and interpretation of the character, all
Mhm.
comes to in this like original movie. So it's like another side effect of the impact of this film that it has.
Mhm. And it's crazy to think. I mean, like, we had 1950s movies from America that like were similar about like nuclear. The one that comes to the top of my mind is Them, the one about like the radioactive, I think it was like bugs or ants or something
Hmm.
like that. And it's crazy to think how like that feels very dated. That feels very much of its time. Yet this movie, I wouldn't say feels extremely dated, especially in the effects and everything. It still holds up. Godzilla is an icon that is still, we literally just had a Godzilla movie that grossed
It,
200 million opening weekend.
because
And
it's the perfect metaphor, allegory, whatever you want to
yeah,
call it, for what
mm,
happened to the Japanese people. And like at the time, you have McCarthy in the United States, you have McCarthyism, you have the Red Scare, you have the fear of a nuclear war overhead, but
mm,
none of the people in the United States have ever felt the impact of a nuclear like of a nuclear bomb going off. And
yeah,
then this is the side effect of it. And I thought the other interesting part of this movie was the debate of studying Godzilla.
mm,
The elder professor Yam Kyohei Yamane, he wants to understand how Godzilla can resist such radiance, and use it to bolster their defense, so that way they're never impacted again, like they were in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Because this world doesn't pretend that those bombings didn't happen. It's not overtly mentioned, but it's hinted at that people left Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Some were lucky enough to get away, and uh, it's very chilling when you like think about it. And the reason that
mm.
this movie works is because these people were actually impacted by the allegory they're making.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. These are people that like are really directly after it. And I was thinking about this a lot in the movie when I was thinking, like, at the time frame, this is 1954. A lot of these actors were probably directly impacted by everything that happened
oh
in
yeah.
which is just insane to think about. I mean, this is, I think, one of the better like sci-fi metaphors. Sometimes we have where it's very hokey or something like that. I don't know if The Day That Earth Stood Still would hold up as well. Granted, I have not seen that movie. Maybe we should add that to the list. But I feel like that would not resonate as much as this movie does.
No, and well, I think another interesting side like of like watching this is like, okay, Oppenheimer came out last year, so like
Mm,
the whole atomic bomb, like the treatment of Japan, like that was a conversation that was recent. So then coming back into this,
mm,
and I saw there were talks about like, well, how the US hasn't like apologized for their war crimes, which I felt was like a very I it's a it's a
tricky,
very
yeah.
it's very difficult to say, because like the other reality was like a mainland invasion of Japan because they wouldn't surrender.
Yeah, yeah,
And like you're talking millions of lives, and like not saying the bomb was right. I'm saying like I wasn't alive or in a position to do this, and how can you judge this? And also, the Empire of Japan committed a lot of atrocities as well that
yeah.
just people like are like, well, we bombed them, so we're good. Like we'll talk about the Nazis and all the bad stuff they did, but like the Japanese did a lot of terrible experiments on the Chinese. Like if you
Yeah.
like in that, we could go into that if we really wanted to. Not the kind of podcast this is, but that is like the
Yeah.
Japanese were not like it was at their from their perspective the way to end the war, which it did, but the
Mm.
side effects could not really be determined at that point. And thankfully, there has not been an atomic weapon used since, is what I would say.
Oh, yeah, no, exactly. So, I just think overall, I mean, the fact that we're taking this movie from the perspective of people directly impacted by nuclear atomic energy and everything that or atomic bombs, just makes this resonate and hit in just a way that, because this is just their response to being like, this is what we went through. And, maybe, this the fact is that Toho, for example, some of the sound effects of this movie was because Toho was so involved with the military in Japan during World War II that they were able to sample some like, destruction effects for Godzilla in this
Mhm.
movie. But reality is, I don't know if these directors were directly impact
Oh, a lot of
like
them, I think a lot of them served in the Japanese military at that time. The other thing I wanted to talk about was like, this is you said it before, Japan's first movie star. Like the fact that this movie even resonated in America at that time is kind of astonishing to me because there was a lot of bad blood towards the Japanese. Mad Men has a great episode where they're pitching Honda motorcycles, and Roger, one of the characters, is like refusing to interact with Japanese businessmen because he served in the Pacific during World War II.
yeah.
And it's like you got to move on, but this is 10 years earlier than when that would have taken place. Like you have a lot of veterans that served in the Pacific. Like they're not fighting them, but they're not like going to become chums of them. So the fact that this movie like caught on at that time and then kind of grew from there is also a little remarkable that it actually had an impact here in the United States, like at that time.
Well, also though, to be fair though, the version that we got in the United States, we're touching upon earlier, was a heavily sanitized version, and,
Heavily sanitized, but it's still a
and
Japanese product that came over.
yeah, within the context of like, all the stuff they added in with Raymond Burr and made it Americanized. I would be curious to see if they release the version we watched tonight in America back in 1950s,
Well,
how that would have gone over.
I don't think in America in 1950s people are watching
Yeah.
going out to watch a subtitled movie. I don't think that's happening at that point in time, regardless of the country it's coming from. But
Um,
but given Japan's like I mentioned it earlier, like influence coming over here to the United States, like in starting in the 90s and into the 2000s through today, Godzilla is like really the first Japanese cultural import that stuck the landing in the United States.
yeah, I definitely agree, without a doubt.
I am a star. I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a star. I am a big, bright, shining star.
Now, this is an interesting one
Mm.
because the star of the movie is Godzilla.
Yeah.
Like he's the star of the movie. Like it's different than it's different than any other kind of movie that you could even put into the reference of it because it like his production design, his appearance, like if that doesn't work, the movie falls apart even with like important messaging at least 60 years later
Mhm.
or 70 years later, my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the 70th anniversary of the original Godzilla's release. Like if you don't have that, you don't get the impact. You need the fear factor of Godzilla and like those great effects. If I had to pick a human, I would say Hirata, who played Serizawa. I felt like he gave the best performance in his limited time.
He was very interesting within that fact. I did like the person who was the like dad on the villager or something like that initially saw Godzilla. I think it was Miko's dad, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
He
Kayohei Yamane, played by
yeah,
Takashi Shimura.
I thought that he was great in this movie too. I mean, and also just like the suit performance. I mean, like nowadays this is all. I'm sure Godzilla and like versus Kong or even Godzilla Minus One was a ton of mocap and stuff like that. So kind of similar, I guess, in a way to an extent. But I think that um, Nakajima was just great in the performance in the suit, and there's a reason why he ended up reprising that role over and over and over again. I don't think that's very common, in some movies. Like for example, in the '80s with Jason and Michael, every movie was just a new guy in a suit.
Yeah, and I mean, then you have to, uh, give your tap up to Eiji Subayara, he was the special effects director on this film. And he's considered a very important figure in Japanese film. He also had the Ultraman franchise in Japan. So so he was a very big figure there. But like getting that all blended to work in that cinematography, like all coming together, it creates a movie star. Godzilla
Mm.
does have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah, he does.
So it's
And like we're talking about like last week with movie star entrances. Godzilla's literally given a movie star entrance where it's just
yeah,
the
oh
build up
yeah.
right there. And with the whole like peeking over the mountain. I think that was one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, just the whole just shock and reveal.
Yeah, and I think that that is like the main the star of the movie. I think for the first time in 100 plus episodes, we actually picked a special effect and guy
Yeah.
in a rubber suit versus like an
To be fair,
actual
yeah, there is a performance behind that.
there no there absolutely is. It's the physicality of Godzilla of like being like, okay, you're a dinosaur, stomp, and like actually making it menacing on like a miniature scale, like while his foot is just crushing a miniature set of buildings. Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's just to size. So there is a performance in there, absolutely, but it's not in the way that we typically give this award out.
Yeah, to be fair.
Are you ready, comedy partner? Waka waka.
Now, Tommy, how much would you love to see like Kermit and like Rolf debate the ethics of an oxygen removal from the water? Like they just
The,
have that debate while
yeah.
Fozzie Bear is Godzilla. Like it'd be
Well,
incredible.
well, well. If anyone's Godzilla, I think it would have to be either Animal or Cookie Monster, specifically. Cookie Monster would be great. I mean, I think that
Or
this
Snuffleupagus.
specific Snuffleupagus probably would work too. I think that in general, it would not work, especially this version of the movie. This
No.
original, the one we're talking about
The
specifically.
Roland Emmerich one would work much better as a Muppet
Even then,
adaptation.
the 1970s like version of Godzilla, I think that you could easily insert some Muppets. I'd just love to see Kermit running away with his arms like fucking flying up in the air.
Yeah.
Oh my god, right there! And I
Mm.
think that you would have to make Godzilla like I said, Cookie Monster would be fucking hilarious. Where it's just like, oh, Cookie, just fucking taking out a building, just trying to eat people thinking they're cookies.
But yeah, no, you would. This movie does have a little bit of that, capturing the right people at the right time kind of deal to it and getting the
Mm.
message across that it needed to in
Mm.
order for Godzilla's on-screen impact to matter. Um, so Tommy, review time. Give me your score out of 5.
I was actually really impressed by this movie. Sometimes with like older movies, especially older sci-fi movies, I feel like they can be a little hokey or not hold up or just laughable. And this movie was none of that. I think the message really strung through, even though I didn't find the human characters to be the most interesting people in the world. But I think the message was stark. Stark. The special effects really held up. Godzilla was just extremely menacing. I think that this just had amazing moments of just destruction and just in a way that felt very somber and not like fuck yeah like can't be Godzilla movie can be. I'm gonna go honestly like 4.5 out of 5. I think this was a great moment of Japanese cinema right here, and the message really just shine through.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo your sentiments. 4.5 out of 5. I think it speaks volumes to this,
Mm,
that there's, Japanese films, that are 70 years old that can still be watched and enjoyed today.
mm,
I think the cinematography and the special effects help impact the message of the movie. Like you see the destruction of it, and then you understand the debate of nuclear, using a nuclear weapon or a greater weapon than we can possibly even fathom to try to destroy it, like no matter what the threat or the force is, and bringing that all front and center 9 years after the atomic bomb dropping on Hiroshima and Nagasaki is it's really well done. It's really impressive how well it holds up. I'm gonna go 4.5 out of 5. Definitely recommend watching this one if you have not seen it. I think you will be surprised by how much you enjoy this film.
yeah.
All right. Fun episode, Tommy. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this episode?
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for listening. You can follow us on social media at Seen It Pod. That's on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. occasional thread. And also leave us a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Really helps us out. Helps us grow the show. We're on YouTube. That's Haven't Seen It Pod. And yeah, so next week, Alex Garland's coming off the movie Civil War. Timmy, I think we should cover Ex Machina. I've never seen it before. His directorial debut.
Sure.
Are you excited for Civil War? Are you going to see it? Or are you just like, fuck, I don't need to see that movie?
No, I kind of want to see it. It'll be interesting to say the least.
Yeah. So stay tuned for next week. And thank you guys so much for listening.
So thank you guys so much for listening today. We will see you next time.